All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of BDCRX. Super excited about this episode. Once again, we have a fantastic guest with a wealth of experience and knowledge. But before we get over to David, Jason, how's everything going this week?
Man, everything is going good. I think after last week, I think there was just the whole political piece that happened, and to ignore it and say it wasn't something would be a lie. Honestly, from the last episode you had, Matt, to this one, obviously a lot has transpired, but honestly, just working through it, doing the best we can. But at the ultimate end of the day, life goes on, and BDC needs to happen. Customers need calling, and people need cars. So we're back at it again, baby.
Yeah, I remember calling you after that, not because of it, but just in this common time we were talking to each other. And I know it affected me. I know it affected you. And it was good to be able to connect with you on that and talk
Absolutely.
with you about it. So, David, to lighten the mood up a little bit, because that was such a serious topic and such a big thing. How's everything going with you this week, bro?
Fantastic. Like you guys, there's been a lot going on out of the industry. I actually talked about that a little bit on LinkedIn. It's hard to ignore, right, those types of things because they kind of take over all topics in and out of our industries. You know, I think as leaders, sometimes we got to navigate the pace at the store, the mood at the store. How everybody's headspace is, and redirect and kind of refocus everybody to like you said, Jason, sell some cars and refocus on our customers, even in trying times like we just had.
I agree.
I think it's an interesting thing for us maybe to deep dive into because, look, I have an opportunity in that one of the things that I felt so many years in the corporate world is I felt like I couldn't be the fullest version of me. I felt like I had to represent another person's company in whatever role I was, whether as I was an individual seller, whether I had moved into an executive role, I would only be willing to speak to certain topics at a certain level. Now, going out on my own and having my own company with my own team, now I can take a different stance and I can stand on different things. I'm able and willing to talk about my faith now, where I wasn't willing to do that in the corporate world. I'm willing and able to talk about things in a political landscape that I wasn't willing to talk about divisiveness. But to your point, when such a impactful thing happens, when you have a team that look to you as a leader, but you're in a corporate environment where you have to represent somebody else's company, David, how do you navigate those waters? Because I know how Jason does it because he leads his team by his heart, and I'm able to do that. But I assume you, like me, when I was in the corporate world, feel a little bit of a restriction, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think no matter where you are, I was in the vendor space and, I'm here at the dealership. And I think both places, it's kind of the same thing. The team kind of reflects the way you lead. They take on your personality in many ways. And I think as leaders, I'm a father. I'm a manager. I'm a leader. I feel that, and I feel like I have to set the tone. So when these things happen, I think it's very important that we don't get too emotional. I think that it's very important that there is some part of us that talks about it because we can't ignore that these things happen. But also we can't become too immersed in topics because we have a lot of people that work for us and look to us that believe a lot of different things.
Right.
And I think it's important when we have teams that are wide ranging that, we're intelligent about how we respond to things. We don't respond emotionally. We respond stoically in many ways, and we lead from in front.
And I think one of the other things that I've found important to do in these aspects is to try to talk less and just ask more questions to my team and allowing them to kind of let me know how they're feeling about it and providing some wisdom and perspective. But by asking questions, it allows me to kind of understand the temperature of the water. And for me, I have an advantage and I think I have a disadvantage. I have about 80 overall employees, and I have employees in over 30 countries that work for me. And I have people that have different political backgrounds, people that have different religious backgrounds, people who have different cultural backgrounds, and everybody digests these types of things differently. Jason, you run a large organization. As I talk through this, I mean, how do you navigate those waters?
It's so funny because here's the deal. As leaders, I think we also need to have a voice, right? We do need to talk about what's honest and what's in front of us. And momentum is a leader's best friend. Dave, I'm sure you know that. Matt, you know that. If momentum is a thing, and like we were talking about before, because it's something that hits the heart for some and maybe some it doesn't, there's still energy that's different, but our job is to unite, and unity starts with the letter U. So my goal has always been to unite us, not make it about a political thing, but let's just make it a humanity thing.
Right.
And if the humanity is not what you agree with, honestly, then maybe there's no space for you at an organization, because humanity is really important to us. Because if you're, willing to do specific things that are inhumane, I don't know what you could technically do at work. And for me, it was an exposing of what I could potentially see from people. I did have to dabble in, because I do have like about 160 people, 65 people. I do have like 100 under a roof. So I couldn't just let it go by. And I needed momentum to be there. So what I did was just said, hey, let's do what's right. Let's just look at what's happened. Let's take a moment to digest, not a moment of silence, a moment to digest, and let's get back to it, because we have a job to do. So because that was like the most neutral place I could be. And honestly, a lot of people came to me and said, I think that was great what you did, because I can't say the spirit, but you just let whatever need to go. And then you brought back in the energy with the rah, rah, rah. And Matt, you know how that goes at my job.
Yeah, it's a rah, rah, rah place. And to your point, I think you used a great word of momentum. And I think that momentum is such an important thing in business. I had a newer employee that started with me about 3 weeks ago, and she was a person who had a lot of energy when she came in, and she didn't see a lot of success right away. And I'm so excited about what today leads for her, because yesterday she doubled the amount of appointments she's ever set in a day yesterday. And man, the thing that is great to see is, how does that rep carry the momentum of a great day? Because I try to remind my rep is there's nothing changed about your skills from the day and the day before. Your different was your mindset and how you use the mindset and the momentum to carry on. David, as you've got people on your team, and I know you're in the process of building a newer team, a younger team in BDC, which is to me an exciting opportunity there at your store. How do you leverage momentum in the mindset that's so valuable when you have new young people that need to see success before they believe success can be there? What do you do around that?
Yeah, I think both of you hit the nail on the head. We are selling energy. We are selling mindset every single day. Our vehicles sell themselves. We have so much competition. We have so much in the market, especially in northern New Jersey and the New York tri-state area. There is a lot of dealerships doing a lot of different things. Customers know what they want. The differentiating factor, in my view, is the energy, is the mindset. How do we do what we do every single day? My role every single day is, I have an hour commute from my house to the store, right? And 45 minutes of that, after I talk to my wife, after I check in with everybody I need to check in with, on the drive, I'm getting my mind right. I'm getting my energy right. When I walk through the door and we have our morning meeting every single morning, the one thing that I want to make sure is that my energy is contagious, is that we are clear-minded, is that we're ready and focused to do what we came to do. Because when these things happen, I'm just circling back to the topic of conversation. When these things happen around us, we can't avoid it. We can't ignore it. It's happening. I think our jobs as leaders is to make sure that our team is focused, they're ready, they're in the right frame of mind, and that the energy is palpable in the room, in the BDC room, on the sales floor. When that customer calls in, when that customer sends us anything, and that video that we send them introducing ourselves, they can feel the energy.
Yeah.
One thing that I always tell my people always is that the first person you need to close every single day, every single morning is yourself.
Come on.
On the product that you sell, on the team that you have, on the place that you work. If you can't close yourself, then you're in the wrong place. And that starts with me. I need to close them every single day that you're on the best team on the planet. And this is why.
So it looks
David,
like Jason has a question, and I want to add one line, and then I'm going to give it to you. I use a similar thing when I'm talking to the you have to sell yourself first. And I'm going to take that quote, David, and as soon as we end this, I'm going to send that quote to my team. Another thing I say to my team around a sale happens on every interaction with every customer.
That's right.
Either you sell them or they sell you. Are you being sold more than your customers are, or are you making more sales? Sorry, Jason, to cut you off.
No, David, I think what you said was like completely spot on. And I know there's a lot of people that view in and that see what you're saying, but maybe there's some people that are like wanting to be more practical. And I think It's like we can say a lot, but then what is a practical application of momentum? So for me over at our business, momentum for me is loud music. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. I just feel like if it's mundane, it's boring, right? Well, I believe in standing desks. I believe that has momentum. I believe in wireless headsets. I believe by getting the best equipment that builds momentum, walking around, moving, chants, things of that nature. Obviously, I run a call center, so it's completely different. All I'm doing is dialing and smiling and setting and missed appointment calling and confirmation going. So for me, it might be a little different because I'm with one steady group of people. But for the people that are out there that are watching this, that are dealers, what is maybe like a practical application of how you build momentum for your staff? So one, you said a weekly, a morning meeting. Is there anything else that you do for the BDC people that builds momentum for them to want to do good, not just for you, but for the store?
Yeah, I think, in many ways, what we do is very similar to sports teams, right? It's you see the product on the field. Like right now, the NFL just started. We see the games and we see the players and we see the games play out the way that they do. What we don't see is what happens between Monday and Saturday, or in the practice, in the rooms where they're watching tapes and they're going over game plans and they're going over what it's going to take to win, right? And so those are the things that I like to focus on. Every morning when I wake up at 5 in the morning. One of the first things that I do is I send out a text, and that text is a little motivation. It's a one-liner. Might be a quote that I read from a book. It's industry information, maybe a link on a news article that I read out there that might help them. It's a product spec that might remind them of why they have the best product out in the market. And then it's refocusing on the goal at the day. Because I think that before you ever come into the store, before you ever sit in that seat, you got to mentally prepare for the momentum. There's no way that you can get into the game. Coach is going to put you into that game and you didn't even stretch. You weren't you showed up as the game started, he throws you in. There's no way you're going to succeed. The game starts well before 9 a.m. when those doors open. And that's every single day. And I think that compounds. My big thing is win the day. When you win the day and you're focused on today, that starts from the moment you wake up. That starts from closing yourself. And when you compound that day after day, week after week, month after month, you build a team that is motivated mentally, and that translates to activity and that translates into results. There is no way that I'm going to have a team that is building results month after month and I'm not pouring into them on a daily basis on things that I've learned, the experience that I've had, my managers, the team, sharing with each other. That's how we build momentum. This is what's working for me. This is what I'm struggling with. This might help you. Let's share.
That's awesome. And I'm going to go back to that, the football thing. I have like a really good phrase for that. But I want the viewers to know kind of what David just did. And you said something, and I don't know if people are going to catch on to that, right? You said, I woke up and I started texting motivation. You woke up in the right mindset. That's number one. But David wasn't just sending out a text message. He wasn't just sending out a text message. He wasn't working. He was building. And we sometimes get this confused when we become leaders in BDC is like, I'll clock in and I'll get to the job. No, it's like you woke up in the ready to build someone. And I think that's the difference. And I can see this from you, David, is that you're willing to build people and you believe building people builds a better process and also ultimately gives you the results you're looking for. A leadership quote was this is what I tell people all the time. How do you get the team to move effectively and efficiently? And my leaders are like, hey, Jay, how do I motivate these people? And how do I really get these people to do more? And what I tell them is this: how the heck does a coach yell at these grown men on a football field? Does anyone how do you tell a grown man to run and he's making $50 million a year? Like, what are you really telling him in the huddle, right? And I think what these coaches are saying is, hey, don't let the team down. Hey, we're in this together. You're more valuable than you actually think you are. What you do matters. Every step you take matters. Every pass you catch matters. And everything you do is not onto you, but for the team. So when I have my leadership talks, what you're saying, David, is that I relate it right to the coach. You got to be able to unify the team, put more of a burden on performance-based together collectively than individual. And I believe that's how you get like this football team atmosphere of momentum.
Yeah.
Hey, let me add to that, David, real quick. I believe in a team building environment, I believe that you manage as a team, but I think that you coach individually. And I think that the way you hold your team to the same standards, the same expectations to get the outcome, that's how you make sure everybody stays on the same page. But I think if you don't know the individual's personal why around what they're doing, why they do what they do, do, what they're here for, what motivates them, then you'll never be able to maximize the potential out of that rep. And so what I hear both you and Jason say, which is, yeah, I deliver a global message to my team for uniformity and to provide the teamwork, but how you get the most out of that quarterback is you understand what motivates that quarterback. And what motivates that quarterback might be very different than what motivates the running back. I would tell you, one of my first experiences as a manager, when I was working over at DeLaron, I had this veteran sales lady, and she was been around a lot longer than I was. She, the number one thing I could do to motivate her is I said, if you set a certain amount of appointments and make a certain amount of sales Monday through Thursday, then you can have half a day on Friday. That was her why. That was more than making twice the commission check. She had no interest in getting promoted. She wanted to be able to earn a half day on Friday, and she would bust her ass Monday through Thursday to earn that time off. And that would never be what motivates me, but it what's motivated her. And if I didn't have that personal understanding of what motivated her, I would never be able to optimize her potential based off of what her why is. Sorry to cut you off, David.
No, again, you both hit the nail on the head. I think, pick your favorite coach on the planet or the top 5 coaches that you've ever watched, no matter what sport. I think they all had 2 things in common. They had vision and they were extraordinary communicators. And I don't think that's any different for us at the store. The coaches are on the sideline and the players are on the field. The player can see their purview, right? They see what's in front of them. They know what their role is. They know the plays. They're running the play. The coach is watching everybody run the plays. He can see what's off. He can see, the player who didn't get to the spot. He can see everything collectively, and his goal is to communicate why we aren't winning as a team, where we're off, adjust, right? Halftime adjustments, adjust when necessary, and continue to communicate the vision. Why is your role important? It's not just the BDC. It's not just the people on the sales floor. It's the receptionist, right? It's the person cleaning up the store. It's, what does the lot look like when the customer parks into that space? It's all of those things. And that's what the coaches, that's what our vision should be. I see the entire field and I know why everybody's important. You're all important. Let me communicate why you're important and how that fits into the results of the team.
Yeah, that's great. Matt, I don't know if you have a question, but I did want to ask David one. I know that you're hiring, and obviously me and Matt's number one thing is building BDCs and providing a service. With you right now, I think Matt said 1,000 leads is kind of like where you guys are at. With 1,000 leads, 4 or 5 people trying to grow that. Let's just be transparent. Like, what are some of the hard challenges right now by growing a BDC? So you can maybe help some other people out. So for me, it's like hiring the right people is so important. And then it's like you also want to hire the people that are similar to the people you already have. So you're not trying to discriminate to anyone, right? That's not what I'm saying. But then you also want like-minded people to be on that team, right? I'm sure that's why coaches, send different players in different places. It could be the same stat player, but it's like, give me this one. He'd do better in my culture, right? So what have you seen starting the BDC, building it up from scratch? Like, what are some of the things that you could tell someone, hey, if you do this faster, you do this less, you'll get more of a production. And if you want to touch on like how you're building it so that other people can maybe go a little bit faster in their journey of building that BDC for their dealership.
Yeah, I think everything you said is true. I think finding the right fit and the right players for the right seats are important. I do look for certain things. It's hard to find those things from a resume when you're reading it because, that's like everybody's highlight reel, or when you're speaking to them in person in an interview. But you try to pick up on the tenacity, on the grit,
Yeah.
How are you able to overcome a no, an objection? If there is experience. If there's no experience, can you be taught? Are you a student? Can you be led? Because I don't want to hire somebody who's looking for a job. I want to hire somebody who's looking for a career. Somebody who wants to sharpen their craft. Whether it's BDC or floor sales, we're in sales, and that takes a certain type of person. And that type, generally speaking, is a competitive person. Tell me about what you've done in your life.
Yeah.
Have you played sports? What type of competition do you like, and what don't you like about competition? Those types of questions are the questions that I ask personally, and those are the types of people that I want on my team. Because I believe that what we do can be taught, but I think somebody who wants it, who rigorously is going after it, who wants to be a student of our craft is going to be the best type of person for BDC.
Yeah, there's 2 things I always say, like in interviews or what I look for, right? Some things can be taught, some things have to be caught. So there's some things you got to catch, some things I can teach you, but some things you just got to get, right? And then the other thing is when I'm on interviews and when I'm doing this, David, is I don't ask what the tangibles are. I ask what are the intangibles that you have. And every time they're going to say, what do you mean by that? Right? What's intangible that your resume doesn't say? Are you a good-hearted person? Are you honest? Are you married? What do you like the sports thing? Like, tell me a little bit. The resume just gives me like the highlight accomplishment reel. But what I'm really looking, do you have heart? Can you grind? What holds you back from putting in 45, 55, 60 hours a day? What is it that you want? And I think what some of the things we talked on the podcast before, Matt, were, people always talk about passion and purpose. And I'm just like, what are your burdens? I know what I'm working for. You said you had a wife. I got a wife and I got kids. I don't need to be passionate for it. I don't need to have a purpose for it. Those are my burdens. I'm hungry enough already. I'm hungry every day enough to feed the fam and to make myself better. So what I tell people is it's like, I'm not looking for purpose. I'm not looking for passion because all that can change and focus can change. Your passion can get refilled, but your burden is what you've put in your life that you have to work from. So it's not what you're working to, it's where you're working from. So those are some of the things that I look for in these interviews when I'm interviewing people. So really similar styles, David. I really like the style you got.
Let me ask you this, Jason. I know your wife. How does she feel about you classifying her as a burden? I know the intent behind the statement.
I'm like,
also,
next question.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I
No, I'm just
can
kidding.
imagine my wife would not like that positioning. I understand the positioning of what you're saying and completely get it, but still, if my wife heard me labeling her and our children as a burden, I feel like she maybe
Yeah.
not take it the way I intended.
Well, yeah, I think I think my wife knows exactly what that means. And her burden to me is because she makes me a better man. The burden to my kids is they make me a better father and an honest man and a good man. So I believe it's not the car the car is a burden too, but it's a financial burden. The burden of people that you put in your life or relationships or a company or your position is the burden. What it does is it gives that burden authority, a power to speak into you and you can go from it. Does that make sense? So I think she knows exactly what I mean. It's more of a spiritual thing. Like, to be blunt, I don't want to get too spiritual on this, Matt. Sorry. But it's like Jesus didn't have burdens. I mean, Jesus didn't have a purpose. Jesus didn't have passion. He just had a burden in his life that he was going to fulfill something. And that was his burden in life. So I try to find my life in a burden, not through feel good things of life that come and go every day. You know what I mean?
No, I do. When I'm hearing you guys go through the interview process, my thought process around interviewing people is the fact that I'm not trying to hire a resume. I'm trying to hire an individual, a person. And I think that a lot of what you say, I think a resume tells you where somebody's been, but it doesn't tell you where they're going. And I think that's something I always focus on. So I would say my most important question I ask, and I always lead every conversation, is we'll get into your resume. We'll get into your skills, your work experience. But the first question I want to know is, tell me, who are you? And that question and how they answer that is likely the most important question they can answer. And especially in a sales role, if they answer that question and start telling me about their work experience, they answered that question incorrectly because they didn't listen to what I just said.
Yeah.
And I think a salesperson needs to be a great communicator, but I think the most important part of being a great communicator first is being a great listener. And if they didn't hear what I was laying down in that is, I want to get to know who you are. What are you about? And your work is maybe a big part of that, but it shouldn't be the most important part of your life. And I want to know who I'm hiring, what fills your cup. What do you do when you're not working? Because all of those things tell me, likely, more importantly, where you're going. So,
Matt, can I throw something at you on that? Because I want to, like, for people that are out there that are going to watch this and go through hiring, I ask two questions every time. What is something that you're struggling with right now? And what is one thing that you've overcome? It's a deep question, I get it, but now I'm getting the real you anyways, because we all struggle with something and we've all overcome something. From that, I can get a better gauge of who you are as an individual, where your hustle, your grind, your grit is. And sometimes people say relationships, and sometimes people say it's family, and sometimes people just say that I overcame a job and I was the number one person. I'm looking for more, and I'm like, found him. You know what I mean?
Would you consider asking an additional question to that? is what's something that has been something you have still yet to overcome that you would like to? Because I think that might also expose them into the fact that why and understand why they have not overcome that. And maybe that's, I got to lose that extra 20 pounds. I've got to do this. I'm trying to run towards this goal. And even those things will give you insight to where they quit, where they give up. We can all explain the one thing we overcame, but I think more telling is what you've not been able to overcome, in my opinion.
Was that like a light flex right there for you, Matt? Is that how much weight you lost? Is that a light?
Yeah, I did lose a few pounds recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a little flex. Now I get it. I see David got the muscles going, so I'm just trying to keep up with the boy over there. He said he wake up at 5:30. I know there's a gym session in there somewhere. There's got to be a gym session.
That is the me time. That is me at the gym, definitely 100%. And look, I'm like you guys. Show me how you do anything, I'll know how you do everything. You know, tell me about the things that you struggle with, like you said, Jason. You know, tell me about some difficult things that you've taken on. If there's very limited answers to that, this is not my person.
Yeah, not
what we do and the standard that we have is very high. And I don't want to waste my time on a person who doesn't have the time to waste on themselves. I need people who are betting on themselves, who have decided and committed themselves to a life of tenacity. I'm going to overcome. I'm going to make it because I just am. Yeah. And these are the things that show you I'm that type of person. I just had an interview with a guy a week or two ago. And before I even interviewed him, he sent me his interview. And under the accomplishments was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And I said to myself, all right, this is a guy who's getting thrown around day in and day out for a long period of time. That alone won't get him the job, but it kind of gave me insight into the type of person that I'm dealing with. This is the type of person who's willing to put in the work every single day. Those are the types of people that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and for all of you, and I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And Jason, I don't know if you know that.
No, you never said that. Next time you come down, we'll have to hit the mat because I want to see what your 135, 145 can do, you know?
Okay. Yeah, but what people don't know who've never done it is it's a 2-year journey for average person to get to a blue belt. And that 2 years is getting your ass kicked every single day. And you don't just show up once a week getting your ass kicked. You show up 3, 4, 5 times a week getting your ass kicked every day. And it doesn't matter how big, strong, tough you think you are, you're going to be humbled in those 2 years. And if you don't have the mindset to continue to show up and get your ass kicked every day, you'll never make it to blue belt. The hardest level to get to in jiu-jitsu is not the black belt, which typically takes 10 years. It is the blue belt. Because once you get to a blue belt, in most cases, the average person who walks in that door, you can kick their ass in most cases. And it's not a size thing. It's not a toughness thing. It's an experience thing. And you have to overcome to get there. So to your point, David, somebody that has accomplished that has humbled themselves, has overcame, and has been willing to suck at something and continue to show up long enough to eventually be good enough to accomplish something. Jason, what are your thoughts on that? And I'll take your challenge on that, getting on the mat.
Oh, yeah, I know you had to at least put that jab in there just to kind of, you know.
Yeah, because you're much bigger than me. I get it.
No,
but look,
I'm not saying that at all.
I'm going to add one more thing to it. The favorite thing I would love to see is you'd have that guy once a month. You'd have that guy from the streets who was the street fighter, tough guy who's been in a bunch of fights, and he'd be 250 pounds, pure muscle. And he'd walk in the black belt, the head instructor would say, hey, yeah, go roll with that 120-pound purple belt girl. And they'd be like, what? I'm this 250-pound guy. Like, I'm going to run over her. And that girl in a 5-minute roll session will make that 250-pound man submit 5 to 10 times. And he will quit to nothing but her pressure of 120 pounds. And it is the most humbling thing that a man and a person can go through is show up into a gym and watch how fast this 120-pound purple belt will submit you. It's so humbling. Sorry, Jason.
You're good. I think you're spot on with what you guys are saying in their approach. I would honestly love to hire a person like that. But I think what that guy does, and I think one of the values is that we should touch on is the consistency to get to it. And I think that's what you were getting to, or Matt, you're alluding to. It's the consistency to show up to get your butt kicked. And I think nowadays, just to point it out there, I just think that the generation that we're hiring, or that I hire personally, it's tough to find it. I'm just going to throw it out there and make it controversial. It is tough to find that player right now. People don't really believe in consistency. People rather wear jeans. I know, never mind, Matt. No, I'm not saying that to you, but something, I don't, you don't wear jeans. Do you?
Yeah.
You a jeans
I'd
guy?
rather wear like shorts,
Well, come on, man.
not like
Anyway,
dress shorts. Like I'd rather wear like athletic shorts. Yeah.
no, but for me, it's like it's just important how you dress, how you feel, how you move. But David, I wanted to ask you a question, rather more to the BDC side of things. You talked to Matt when we were getting more information about you, and it was about your customer service experience when it comes to your BDC, right? Tell me, I think there was a quote. I think Matt might have wrote it down, or the notes did. Rather, you want to be high customer experience rather than just focusing on the activity and metrics. What do you mean by that when you say that? Like, what does that mean?
Well, what that means is, I'm a consumer of many things, just like you guys are. We all are, right? And everybody listening is. And I think we have all experienced terrible customer service in many different industries. It's
Hmm.
frustrating. I think our industry, for whatever reason, is behind the times on this topic of customer experience. And so I know that one of the biggest wins that you can have as a team is dial in on that. Make sure that regardless, win or lose or draw on that lead, that customer will not be able to say, when I spoke to David, I didn't have a professional, great experience, whether I buy from them or not. I want that to be the experience that that customer has, and I believe that that will translate into more deals and more sales and more appointments.
Matt and David, just a quick, what how do you guys, for your companies and the BDC that you run, what makes quality? Is it training? Are you looking for, like, what does that mean? Is it texting the customer back fast? Is it when they get there you greet them with a water? Like, what is excellence to you guys in form of customer experience?
You want me
David,
to take
answer
that
that.
one
You
on
can
there?
answer that first. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's being treated the way you'd want to be treated, the way you want your mom to be treated. You
Mm,
know, I call into a place, I want it to be picked up. I don't want to be bounced around. If I have a question, I'd like it to be answered. If I have a concern, I'd like it to be at least, somebody's giving it attention. That to
mhm,
me is a great experience. Now, yes, it means training. Yes, it means that becoming top of mind. One thing that I talk about to my team all of the time is that what we do day in and day out becomes redundant. We answer a bazillion leads a day. We see customers every single day. We look at these cars every single day. But to these customers, they might do it if they're, if they're a lease customer, they might do it every 3 years. And some customers even more sporadic than that. So it's got to be a big moment. It's a big moment
mhm.
for them. You got to make it a big moment. You have to match their energy. They're excited. You should be excited. You cannot allow that to be routine in that room, because once it becomes routine, it translates over the phone and in your energy,
Mm,
and that is transmitted to that customer, and they don't feel that. If I'm buying a house and I call a realtor and their energy is down and they seem like they're not even interested in the conversation, then I'm finding a new person. And I
yeah.
feel like our customers feel the same way. I'm excited about this. I'm ready to buy a car. Why aren't you excited about me buying a car?
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you can't get excited about talking about this to the customer, how would you ever expect them to get excited? And I communicate that all the time. I think that energy, enthusiasm, excitement, and passion are some of the most important thing, especially in a phone sales environment. And whether you're doing BDC in a dealership or whether you're doing it in any other sales environment, being able to communicate and translate that enthusiasm through the phone is going to be very important. Now, for me, Jason, obviously, I've got a slightly different, I would say, advantage and disadvantage in the fact that for the clients that we serve, we're an outsourced BDC. So we are a external but connected part of the dealership. And so we don't have the convenience of being in the store. We don't have the convenience of understanding the city and the town and the feel. We don't know the people that we're ultimately setting up, but it makes it even more important for us to be very, very specific in regards to how we set the tone and the expectations. What I think of it, as David said, is these customers might buy a car every 5 to 10 years, and that's a very, very nervous opportunity for them, but also an exciting thing. And so we need to be able to be as temperamental to those emotions that they're going through with the excitement, but also the fear that comes in, and not be what salesmen normally are, which is so heavily transactional. And I think that this is something I've learned in the past 12 months in the BDC, which is taking a significantly less transactional sales approach, which is going to put a customer on guard, making them feel like they're being sold, and taking more of a service-based approach. Asking them our leading question when we ask them is, what has you in the market today? And having more of a discovery-based approach than a sales-focused, go directly to the appointment approach. And that has seen our set rate, appointment rate go up drastically. It's seen our connection rate go up drastically. And then the one metric that really, really always just blows my mind every time I see it, we have a thing that we do, which is a VIP transfer, which is a VIP confirmation, which means we sell the appointment, then we hand it off to the desk for the desk to do an additional level of specialization to that customer with a seasoned sales manager, general manager, where we say we're going to go out of our way to offer a law of reciprocation to you inside of the dealership. When that is done and completed, there's over a 93% show rate. When that is not done effectively, there's less than a 50% show rate. The difference in results when you take care of your customer and go the extra mile, to me, is undeniable. And for that reason, that really changed the landscape of how we approach the conversation. But Jason, for you and I kind of have a similar thing. You work with many more stores in many different environments. My environment is much more controlled. The VIP is a mandate of one of our largest clients that we've learned from, but I would assume not all of your clients have that same emphasis. So how do you deliver that? And what are your thought process on it?
When it comes to things of like confirmations and bringing that level of customer service. So David, I'm an outsourced BDC that, we talked about that before. There's an element that an in-house BDC has that me and Matt don't have. And that element is exposed when it comes to a confirmation. A team like that could say, hey, John, this is Jason, the VIP manager, the one that we're talking to you about. Just to let you know, I bumped into the car this morning. I looked at the interior, exterior. The car still smells like a brand new car. It's got 50,000 miles on it, but man, you're going to love to see it. Just to let you know, I see you have an appointment today at 2:00. I'm actually making a Starbucks run at 1:30. Do you like your coffee, hot or cold? Make it special for me so I can do something nice for you. So an outsourced BDC can't do that. So I think there's a right way to do confirmations. And I think this is just my feel 100%. An appointment's not an appointment unless you confirmed it. It's just a tentative slot. I can't tell you how many doctor's appointments I missed if they don't send me that text message. Matter of fact, I still miss it because they didn't call me. So I think confirmations are extremely important. It's just as important as the appointment. I think what happens is that we're so happy to get the appointment, we're scared to call the customer back. Because here's the reality. When you call the customer back for a confirmation, you give them enough time to actually react to what you just said. Because there's a discovery call, we're asking questions. But now I get to think about it. Well, hey, I was thinking, what happens if I don't have enough equity within my vehicle? Now they start thinking about these other scenarios and friends telling them something. So I think the confirmation calls have to be done with a higher level BDC person, BDC manager, desk manager. And if that person does have that good service and quality service, a world-class experience feel, that's where you're getting this 95% show ratio and all those confirmations. I don't know, David, how do you feel about kind of like me and Matt were saying these confirmations with your BDC, or do you guys do something different?
No, we do something very similar. The night before we get an appointment sheet for the next day. We are confirming those appointments at the desk. And to Matt's point, before I touch on that topic, I think the transaction is becoming very relational. And I think both of these points kind of marry at this point. If the BDC did a great job of selling expertise and selling trust and not just selling an appointment, then it makes that confirmation even easier, because when we call, and I call and say, hey, Matt, I see that you're coming in on that 21 Honda Elantra, fantastic choice. Can't wait to meet you. I see that your appointment's coming in at 3:15 tomorrow. Can you think of any reason that you wouldn't be able to make it? First of all, I'm locking them down. I'm tying them down right then and there. But also, I want to let them know, I'm going to be here when you show up. And I can't wait to shake your hand. I can't wait to show you this car. You're going to have a fantastic experience. I'm not going to waste your time. We're going to get right to the point. And they hear my voice. And if I can do that effectively, even better on a video where they can see my face, then I think, like you said, I don't see a reason, and we have seen no reason why that appointment show rate isn't incredibly high. Since we started doing that, our show rate has been very high. And those customers, they end up buying cars because I think enough trust has been sold where they understand I'm at the right place. I'm talking to the right people.
Yeah, look, I think it's so important how that process is done and that it's done effectively. And one of the things I think that's also important is we're talking about how we get to the appointment, and once we got the appointment where it is, but there's so many steps before we even get the yes that we have to follow. So right now, you and I spoke the other day, and you indicated that you've got a very young team. We now know how you hire. We now know kind of what you're trying to build and the experience you're trying to set. You have 4 people currently that are all still brand new. What would you say is your biggest obstacle right now in being able to deliver the results that you feel like you want to get from the store?
Headcount. I
Okay.
just need more bodies. We talked about earlier in this conversation, we talked about, people today and what they're looking for in a career and in a job. And I think just a little bit differently, I think people want to be coached. I think they want to be part of something. They want to believe in something. And I feel like they're looking for a passion. There's a lot of kids that are, as an example, there's a lot of kids that graduate high school and they're not sure if they want to go into college. They're not sure if that's their path. They're not sure what they want to do. I think those types of individuals, very young people who want to do well in life, they want a career that is able to afford them, great financial career, also want to be coached in a different way than maybe you and I were coached when we came into this industry. Our industry has changed and evolved, and I think people have changed and evolved in expectation of what they want to be a part of. And while we were brought up one way in this industry, I think they're looking for a different type of feel. That is for me, that is my number one role. Nothing else matters more than coaching. And so it really is about getting the most out of every seat in my BDC. Leads I know are going to come in. It's about getting the most juice out of that orange.
So with the lack of headcount, what do you feel like you're leaving on the table that you could be having if you had an open checkbook to bring in the full headcount and the right people of the headcount? What would change in that regards?
Yeah, I think there's a number, right? There's a number of leads that every person can handle effectively and efficiently, in my view.
Yeah,
And I think
agreed.
once you go beyond that number, then, the results will diminish. I think it's just, that's what it is. And for me, I've been bringing in my sales guys off the floor and women off the floor to help out in the BDC, but their expertise is limited, right? Their focus is, they're blasting different things. Their focus is different than a BDC person whose sole focus on this lead and getting this person through those doors. So that right now is my biggest obstacle. If I'd had it my way, I'd have, 8 to 10 reps in that room and we'd be boiler room style getting customers through the door.
Yeah, I think David, what you're saying is like completely spot on. I think there is a number per lead per agent to do it effectively and efficiently. And I think there's different tiers of agents so they can get specific leads. Not everyone should get the same one. There should be a fight for it. There should be a little bit of there needs to be, right? I like what you're saying. I humbly agree. And one of the thoughts is this is what I've seen over time. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong or right on this. Pay plans dictate behaviors. We know that as leaders. That's that's why I pay plans. But in a BDC, it works a little different. If I'm a BDC agent, there's inbounds coming in. I know what leads are good leads. If I know if it's a Facebook lead, I know it ain't closing that well, but I know a dealer on it. You know what I mean? I know a guru's close a little bit better over here. First party organic leads coming from the website. Oh, someone's calling. I'm gonna pick that one up. Do you think because there's not enough resources, do you think there's do you think cherry picking becomes a thing? Like, I'm just gonna focus on what's hot. Why would I really want to wrestle with that customer on one of these harder opportunities? Wouldn't it just be easier to just get the easy hanging fruit? Do you find that a thing when you're running? Because I would say you are running lean. I would say you're right. You probably, for 1,000 leads, I'd say 8 is solid. 9 would like a little bit, like the 9 person is an in and out kind of, you don't have everyone's a rock star, but you got that in and out person, a part-time, they're picking up maybe some extra shifts and hours and stuff like that. But do you see that the team runs lean? Because obviously I see it all. I mean, I'm part of a BDC. Do you think that they're just working pay plans so they make it look really good, so their paychecks look inflated really high, but then it's like, well, the results may vary? Do you get that sometimes?
Absolutely. I think, when you have way too many leads and not enough personnel, you're leaving money on the table, for the house. And if I were them, I would do the exact same thing that you're saying and that you're describing, of course. Because like you said, they know what's working, what's not, what tends to close and what doesn't. But yeah, I think pay plans are very important, and when we get into this wrestling match about, personnel and headcount and the cost of that, and then, do we outsource? Do we keep it in-house? Do we incorporate AI? We haven't even touched on that topic, but that is a whole new world where now, is that the solution to our lack of personnel? I don't know the answer. I think it's too new. I think it's too early in the game to know how efficient and effective it is and how people respond to it. But I think that it is definitely a problem when it comes to hitting the metrics and the goals that you're trying to attain day in and day out, month in and month out. We can't ignore that personnel and what the cost of that personnel versus the result is.
Yeah, let me ask this part too. Like, let's say you mentioned, like, what if I used AI? What if I used an outsourced company to supplement that? Let's say you did either of those or both of those. Where do you think your team is most valuable? If you maintained 4, but then supplemented the things with other resources, where is your team most valuable to be? Because I ask that question because I have some stores where we run full bore, we take every lead front to back, run a full cadence. And I have other stores where we have an integrated process with strong internet department, strong BDC managers, and those processes work really well. And our team kind of fills the gap of the things that they're either not good at and or not willing to do. Where do you see your team having a specialization?
I think specialization for us is once you got somebody on the phone, I want to talk to them, right? So I feel like I'm the best closer there is, right?
Okay.
And so I want, I want 10 of me. Right. So if I had it my way, I'd have a team of people just calling, making contact, and then sending that over to the person who can close. So that would be ideal. But I don't know the cost of that off the top of my head. But that would be the setup that I would love. But it's a mix of that, and that's where I think you can fill the gaps with an outsource. You can fill the gaps with an AI. Can we get them to a point where a phone call, do you have a few minutes to jump on a phone call? And then getting the right person on that phone call. I think that is the sweet spot when it comes to over-the-phone sales and appointment making.
Yeah, Matt, I want to jump because I don't want to skip a topic, and I think it's important because I know we got to land for time. That AI thing. So obviously, me and Matt are outsourced BDC. Like, you would think I'm scared about it. I welcome it. I'm happy that it's coming. I'm happy it's around. I had a friend text me, and he's like, "Hey, which pre-workout should I buy?" I'm like, "You don't even work out. Like, this is his first week going to the gym ever, but he wants to buy the pre-workout." It's like, hold on. But I think what it is in AI is a supplement. But if you ain't working out, what are you using it for, man? It's like protein powder. That don't mean that you're not getting stronger. You're getting bigger in the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So I think AI is going to be a really good complement for texting and emails long term. And I think what it's going to be able to do is just keep us in front of customers on more of a mundane task that BDC agents have to get stuck with. That I think now we can just kind of, for me, I swear, I just wish BDC just pick up the phone and call. Like if that was like the only thing we needed to do in BDC, I would love it the most. Like texting and maybe text, we can text, but emails, if that never existed, we never asked for the field, I wouldn't care at all. Just give me your telephone number, pick up when I call, and let me pitch you the program, right? Let me pitch you a car. So for me, I think AI is really good on that text and email follow-up because at this moment, I think we just got to give it to ChatGPT. It's better than you anyway, better than me anyway. So Matt, says that he can't spell, and neither can I. So it's like, I'm just going to use ChatGPT at this point, right? So shouldn't we run to it? So just kind of like both of your thoughts on like that kind of like little bit there.
Yeah, I'll go first, Dave. And what I would say for me is I think that AI is an inevitable thing that all industries will be moving towards. Do I think that it's a product that could replace BDC staff today? No, I think it could be a supplemental tool at times, but I don't think that anything's going to replace a good, strong individual BDC rep. I think there's nothing that will replace that today. Now, 5 years from now, who knows? Likely it will. We have AI in a lot of the stores we do that handle some of the longer term follow-up, but I would never put AI customer facing in the first 7 days. I would maybe have it to where that 6-month follow-up that I know will never get touched by an employee because they'll move to the fresh stuff. Then having an AI in the background for that is not a bad idea. And I think it'll serve a purpose to get a response. And then once there's a response received, then the human kicks in at that point again. I would say that's where we are today. And I'm confident that will change drastically in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think another sports analogy coming, but I think AI is the special teams of what we do, right? I think we are a contact sport and we need to make contact. So I need help More
That's good,
contact.
man.
Like, let's
That's
make more
good.
contact. Get me on the phone, like I said before. Get my guys on the phone. I'm confident that they can make an appointment. I just need somebody on the phone. So if AI can help me talk to more people and get them on the phone, I am all for it. I think that's where AI is going to supplement, like you said, Jason. It's going to supplement you to put some weight on. It's going to supplement
Yeah.
you to pad your sales, to pad your show rate, to pad your appointments, because it's going to do what a person cannot do. It's going to be able to follow up for 30, 60, 90, 120 days, whatever it may be, long term, to continue to talk to people until they're lower funnel and ready to talk to somebody. And that is something that we definitely need help.
So go.
That analogy was amazing, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are that is like, I'm taking that. I'm just letting everyone know.
Yep.
Don't, like, you can use whatever you want. I'm taking that.
Yeah, it's been marked as a clip already. Dave, have a clip on that, so you can use it for yourself all you want. All right, so I've got one last question for me, and then Jason, obviously you can take us home from here. I'm always interested when I speak to different people with different backgrounds to understand, what do you think are maybe the most important and or second or third most important statistic you should analyze to determine whether a rep is good, whether your team is good, whether you're performing or not? What's the couple of analytics and statistics you look at to determine that, Dave?
Contact. I want to know, activity is great, but activity for the sake of
Mm.
activity is not something I'm looking for. So yeah, you can make, 100, 150 calls a day, but how many people did you talk to? Why are we calling the middle of the day and not when our wheelhouse, which is when people are home or people are available? Things like that. If you talk to 20 people today, how many appointments did we make? Those are the things that matter to me, because those are the coachable items. If you talk to 20 people, I want to hear all 20 conversations. That is not to nitpick, that is to make you better and stronger. For me, it is all about contact. Everything that we do has got to be contact and results driven. I don't care about activity. I shouldn't say I don't care about it. I care less about activity and more about the results that come from the activity.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question? Do you have Vin solutions?
I do not.
So what CRM do you guys use? eLeads, Vin?
So I use Focus through Reynolds and Reynolds.
Okay, you dealer Ray. We call it Ray. So I don't know if Ray has this stat. David, what you said is identical to what I think. I think the single most important stat is the two-way conversation stat. How many leads did we get? How many leads did we contact? Two-way conversation. Not did we call. How many people were on the phone? If you had 1,000 leads, you would want to speak to 85%. It's always going to be that no email, double lead, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's just weed it down. Let me talk to 85%. The biggest decrease, Matt, that I've seen is that dealers are at 55% contact, 65% contact. The reason why other BDCs or companies like ours and Matt's is I'm going to speak to way more people. I have way more opportunity. So how do we build contact? Well, I think calling a lead 3 times a day is okay. If you fill out a lead, I'm calling you 3 times that day, morning, noon, and afternoon, or at night. For the first 6 days is just to have you pick up the phone. Now, if you want to email, we can email. You want to text, we can text. But I think the single most important thing is, do you love me, hate me, appreciate me, but tell me something so I can at least tell you something. So I think what you said is absolutely correct, spot on. I'm a contact guy, went through and through. The first stat I look at is not how many appointments we set, it's how many leads did we contact. And then I can see what my show ratios and set ratios after that.
So let me ask you too this, because that's probably one of the biggest things that we track as well. I would say that our number one metric we look at to determine a successful store and a successful person is the lead to show rate, which factors in the connection rate, then how many of those then you set. It's kind of the all-encompassing start to stop number. But I would say connection rate obviously is where we are able to determine the best. Now, when you say connections, Dave, I heard Jason speak about rate of connections. Are you speaking about total volume of connections or rate of connections? Because to me, it sounds like the same thing, but there's different coaching that comes into play based off of which of those numbers you're looking at. Is it that I want you to talk to 20 people today, or activity does matter when it is connection rate? Because the more connections, even at 55% as it might be, the higher the volume of calls, the higher volume of total connections. So are you looking at rate or just total connections?
Yeah, so when I'm game planning with my BDC or with my sales team in general, I don't like to talk about goals so much as far as teams concerned. Like individually, this is the goal. that you should have or that we're going to put together, and let's reverse engineer that. If the goal
Mm.
is, and I'm just going to use a number, if the goal is 10 appointments today, how are we going to get there? Let's game plan on getting there, because just hoping for it is not what's going to get it done. So let's game plan how we're going to do that. And then we know in order to get a certain number of appointments, we're going to need to speak to a certain number of people. So how are we going to do that? And really dialing it in so that the focus is there. Like, if you hope to get something, you will never get it. But if you know in your mind, like, I've got to talk to 50 people today, how am I going to do that? If I'm a BDC rep, what is my game plan on doing that? Am I going to just phone call, like Jason said? Am I just going to text? Am I just going to email? Should I start sending some video? Maybe it's my messaging. Maybe I'm not, there's no call to action in my messaging. Maybe it's my tonality. I don't know, but we need to figure out how you're going to get to the contact, because the contact is where the gold is. The contact is all that matters in our sport.
So I've found the
Yeah.
three things that we can look at to determine connection and to increase connection. Number one is speed to lead. I think that's probably one of the most important parts. If we can get a call out and connected inside of 5 minutes, I think the statistic says if you wait more than 5 minutes to make the connection, 65% of those leads are gone. So it's important to get that call and the connection out inside the first 5 minutes. I think the next aspect would be how many overall calls you make. When you know your overall connection rate, you can affect that metric just based off of increased activity. And then I think the third would be the cadence in the message. And so what you are saying to get somebody to respond. I would say for our team, I would say about half of our appointments we set are through text. A good percentage of them are through calls as well. Very few were ever done through email, but a lot are through text. In the metric, in the standard, and how you use that. One of the things we do that is we send a text immediately inside of the first 3 minutes, say, hey, I'm about to call you on this lead you submit, and then call 30 seconds later. That has increased our overall connection rate of the answering of the phone call, because we're alerting them that this is why we're calling and that we are calling. So when they see an unknown number, they're more likely to pick it up. But then we make sure that if the answer is not done, we double tap it. Then we will leave a voicemail. Then we will send an additional, more information-based text with the purpose of getting a response. Then we send an email as a courtesy, but we know that email is more informative, less about getting a response, because they're going to respond less than that. Dave, I ask you, do you run a similar cadence in that thought process of under 5 minutes call, under 3 minutes text? I follow that up with an additional text. And then to Jason's point, we do call 2 hours later and then 2 hours after that, making a total of 3 calls, 1 text, 1 email in the first day.
Yeah, I think we know statistically, the person or the team that makes contact first usually wins. So we want to make sure that we are that team. So speed definitely is the name of the game. But with speed is also, what are we saying, right? So I think it is important also to, one thing that I talk about to the team always is, you are a person who receives phone calls, many of them, text messages and emails. How do you respond to that? I don't know about you guys, but on any given day, I get multiple voicemails and phone calls that I may or may not ever listen to. But there isn't one text message that I don't at least read. I might not respond, but I will read them all. And so, I always say to my team, like, I'm a big texter. I'm a big proponent of texting. What are we saying in the text that allows us, to your point, Matt, to jump on the phone call? Because I don't believe you're going to be able to make the appointment through text, but I do believe that the text can open up the door to a phone call. So I think that is important also to note.
Yeah, I know we got time constraints, Matt, but I wanted to land the plane on this because we were talking about activity and connection and stuff. What I found is this: a lot of BDCs are a hamster in a wheel where there's a lot of activity, but not a lot of progress. And I found that some of the ways you guys are talking about is much more effective, because what I see is BDCs do, we'll call it once a day, we'll skip day 2, call it on the 3rd day. It's like, yo, what are you doing?
Completing
Like,
tasks.
yeah, like completing tasks, but tasks don't always lead into production.
They don't.
I think we all have like the right mindset to it. Honestly, David, I learned a lot from you on this one. I got some new quotes that I'm going to use. We're a contact sport, so you can clip that up and we'll send that over to you, bud. But man, I appreciate what you said. And there's another topic I would have squeezed in. It was service, but I guess we'll have to do that off air.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, I appreciate you jumping on with us today, man. You've been a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. And I think that's even more, the thing I'm more appreciative is just how much it seems like we have in common with so different backgrounds from all three of us. All three of us seem like we were all kind of speaking the same language, and we all lead similarly and think similarly. And that's awesome. So I appreciate you jumping on. We'll make sure for all of the listeners, we'll tag in all of the information to get in contact with him if you want. Get in contact with Jason, get in contact with me. And if you like what we're doing here, please share the content, like it, comment, engage with it as much as possible. Tell us what we could have done better, what question we could have asked that you would have loved to hear Dave answer or Jason speak to or me to comment on. Until then, please share the information, and we look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Great talking.